My name's Darren MacLean. I'm the chef and owner of Shokunin izakaya in Mission in Calgary. My mother was a really amazing cook, and she would invite people over, and in turn, you know what it's like to grow up. You get invited to other people's homes, and I would try things that I'd never tried before, and I fell in love with the flavors because they were so different from what I had at home. That sort of motivated me to get into the food side of it, and then because I had a love of Japanese food from a very young age, as soon as I got the chance, I went. The cultural aspect of traveling to another country is always amazing. You know, people refer to it as culture shock. And I think you can only be shocked by another culture if your mind is closed. It was definitely a different culture, and it was definitely, but at the basis of it, it was very similar. So it was very easy for sort of me to relate. And maybe that's because I grew up in that environment, that little bit of a melting pot of a neighborhood where I had Chinese friends and African Canadian friends and so on and so forth. Shokunin is a izakaya restaurant, which is sort of more casual eating and drinking establishment for people to come together after work in Japan. I would liken it to a Canadian pub. So an izakaya serves as this safe, casual place to sort of be oneself. Sort of my aspirations for the restaurant that go beyond, obviously, creating and making good food that people can enjoy is I want to create a bit of a bridge or narrow the gap between two cultures that have a bit of a sordid history in Canada. Japanese were interned in camps, and there was a lot of racism surrounding Japanese citizens in World War II, and some of those things have carried over, but they've also been an integral part of our culture. And so that's sort of one of the if I could say the larger picture or the overreaching cultural goal of Shokunin is to educate and introduce people to a new side of Japanese cuisine and culture that most aren't familiar with. Cultural exchange is a two-way street. So not only here are we trying to educate Canadians on the goings-on or the inner workings of a Japanese restaurant, we're also trying to educate our Japanese clientele on our local ingredients and what we have here and what Canada is really great for as well. So by allowing and bringing Japanese chefs to Canada, we further educate Canadians and show them these amazing people from another country that they otherwise wouldn't have met. And conversely, we show our country and what's great about our culture to them as well. You know, Canada isn't usually known for having a culture, but this culture of all inclusivity is really inspiring to me, and I hope that it inspires the guests that we bring as well. So instead of, always trying to figure out how do we, break through these cultural walls, sometimes it's just about peeking over the edge. It's not about necessarily having to smash this wall down because you're just on two sides of the same fence, or there's two sides of the same coin. The things that unite us as humanity are pretty much the same. So the way we maybe approach what we do based on our cultural upbringing, that's where the exchange gets exciting, because there's things that are very similar that are done in Japan that we do here in terms of like a sauce, for example. They have a sauce, it's an egg-based sauce. It's so similar to an hollandaise, but it's completely different. But there's a common ground between the two where you really start to interact and have that exchange of ideas. And I think that's what it is. It's just, for me, the best part of being a Canadian owning and operating as a Japanese chef is the opportunity for that exchange and the opportunity for that enlightenment between cultures through what otherwise is sort of monotonous. It's not a huge epiphany, and I think we need to sort of look at that as, instead of seeing cultural barriers, start exploring just human similarities. And then I think the rest just becomes very easy.